I spent 30 years being the peacemaker until my family forgot I existed at Thanksgiving. Hi, I'm Lucas, 30, and this Thanksgiving I realized I wasn't forgotten. I was erased. I used to think being the middle child just meant you had to try a little harder, be a little nicer, keep the peace while the rest of the family burned down the kitchen. Literally. I was 8 when I stopped a full-on mashed potato meltdown by suggesting we go around and share what we were thankful for. My mom cried, said I was her little peacemaker. I thought that was a compliment. Spoiler, it wasn't. Fast forward 22 years, and I'm still playing UN mediator between my sister Camille, the family darling with a flair for disaster, and my brother Tyler, who once crashed a dirt bike into a wedding cake and somehow got praised for living life fully. Meanwhile, I work in UX, I call home every Sunday, I Venmo mom for the flower fund, and I haven't missed a family event in over a decade. I'm dependable, which in my family is just another word for invisible. Thanksgiving has always been sacred. My mom treats it like the Met Gala for poultry. Printed menus, themed centerpieces, name cards, and gold foil. Even when I moved 4 states away for work, I still made the 9-hour drive every year. No complaints, just gratitude and green bean casserole. This year, something fell off from the jump. No group chat, no spreadsheet for side dishes, no passive-aggressive, "Can't wait to see you, Lucas," from Camille. Just radio silence until Tyler posted a pic of his dog in a pilgrim hat, and my mom replied, "Can't wait for next week." I texted, "Hey, what time should I get there?" Crickets. So I assumed it was just the usual chaos. Loaded up the car with wine, my casserole, and a dumb little wooden sign I found at Target that said, "Gather." I even brought new place cards. Handwritten. Calligraphy. Because why not? I pulled into the driveway Wednesday night and saw 8 cars already there. Okay, big crowd. No big deal. I texted mom. Just got here. Need help with anything before I come in? Nothing. I knocked. My dad opened the door like I was a neighbor who'd shown up uninvited. "Oh, hey, Lucas. You made it." He stepped aside. No hug. No warmth. Just "you made it." Inside, it smelled like cinnamon and neglect. Camille was on the couch with some guy I didn't recognize, doing her usual flirty laugh while scrolling thing. Tyler fist bumped me without looking up from his fantasy football stats. My mom appeared from the kitchen with a wine glass in one hand and a tray of deviled eggs in the other. "You're here," she said. Not, "I'm so glad you're here." Not even a smile. Just, "You're here." Something snapped in my chest, and I didn't know it yet. But that was the moment everything changed. The next morning, I woke up early. Like always. Out of habit, I started chopping carrots before anyone else was even out of bed. I figured, if I couldn't be the favorite, I could at least be the first one to make stuffing. Mom shuffled into the kitchen, already dressed in her apron that said "Stuffing Queen." No eye contact. Just a low "morning." I offered coffee. She nodded but didn't say thanks. I told myself maybe she was just overwhelmed. Hosting Thanksgiving for a group this size isn't easy. I asked if I should pull out the folding table like we did last year. She didn't even look up. "No, we're keeping it casual this time." Casual? From the woman who once made us redo the entire centerpiece because the color scheme clashed with the cranberry sauce? Okay, should I grab the extra chairs at least? She wiped her hands on a dish towel. "We'll figure it out later." That's when I noticed. Only 12 place settings were on the table. 12. I counted again. There were at least 14 people in the house. Maybe more. Camille's boyfriend. Tyler's college buddy. Even my cousin Ella, who hasn't shown up in 5 years, was apparently invited this time. So I asked, "Where should I put my name card?" She hesitated. "Let's wait on that." Wait for what? Divine intervention? Dinner was set for 4. I got dressed, grabbed the wine I brought, and even put on that dumb brown sweater mom likes. The one she says makes me look less pale. At 3:55, I walked into the dining room. 13 chairs. 14 people. My usual spot, third from the end, next to the window, was occupied by a girl I didn't recognize. Camille's Pilates instructor, apparently. Everyone else was chatting, sipping wine, laughing like this wasn't a logistical nightmare. I stood there for a beat, holding my name card like it was evidence. Where should I sit?" I asked. Mom didn't look up from the turkey. "Oh, we must have miscounted. Just grab a stool from the kitchen." Just grab a stool. Like I was some intern at a startup party. Not a son. Not a guest. Just an extra. Camille giggled. "Don't be dramatic. It's just a chair." Tyler rolled his eyes. Seriously, dude? Don't make it weird. So I didn't. I walked into the kitchen, stood by the counter, and waited. 20 full minutes. No one came to get me. No one even noticed I was gone. And in that silence, by the fridge, next to a pie no one would eat, I made a quiet decision. I wasn't going to sit at a table that kept forgetting I existed. That night, I didn't sleep. I drove back to my apartment in silence. No music, no podcasts, just the hum of the road and my thoughts screaming louder than any playlist ever could. When I got home, I found a package on my doorstep. No return address. My name written in my mom's handwriting. At first, I thought, maybe it's an apology. Maybe someone noticed. Maybe she felt bad. Inside was a single item. A $40 gift card to Panera Bread and a linen napkin from Thanksgiving, embroidered in gold thread with the phrase, "Family is everything." No note. No explanation. Just the emotional equivalent of a participation trophy wrapped in passive aggression. I held that napkin in my hand like it might suddenly morph into a real apology. Spoiler, it didn't. That's when it hit me. They didn't forget me. They saw me. They just didn't care. And I'd spent my whole life twisting myself into someone they might value. Helpful, available, neutral, quiet. I answered every group chat. Drove 6 hours for birthday dinners. Covered for Tyler when he forgot mom's birthday. Venmo'd Camille when she was in between contracts. All for what? So I could be the first one cut when chairs ran out? No, no more. I booked a cabin. Remote. Snowy. Fireplace and Wi-Fi just strong enough to stream music. I turned off my phone on Christmas Eve. I didn't send a text. I didn't post a story. I didn't explain. I just disappeared. And for once, it didn't feel like running away. It felt like reclaiming something. Freedom. Peace. Control. Meanwhile, the group chat blew up. I didn't read the messages, but the notifications came in like a slot machine. Mom. Tyler. Camille. Even Dad, who never texts unless it's to ask what Hulu password I set up for him. But I didn't respond. Not on Christmas. Not the day after. Not when Camille sent the "you really made Mom cry" message, like her tears were somehow my fault. Not when Tyler said, "You always take things too personally." Not when Dad called and left a voicemail that said, "Lucas, your mother's really upset. I think you're making too big a deal out of this." Too big a deal. Too big. Over a chair. Over a napkin. Over a lifetime of being treated like I was lucky to be included. Nah. I wasn't being dramatic. I was finally being honest. And the scariest part? It felt good. 3 weeks later, I got a save the date in the mail. Camille was getting married. Of course she was. The envelope was thick, the kind that costs more than my weekly groceries. Inside was a photo of her and her fiancé. Matching linen outfits, a field of wildflowers. The words "Love is an adventure" printed in whimsical script across the top. At the bottom, in much smaller font. Adults only. Immediate family only. I stared at those 4 words like they were a riddle. I mean, immediate family clearly includes me, right? I texted her. "Hey, just got the invite. Quick question, what exactly does immediate family mean here?" She replied 3 hours later with a thumbs up emoji and, "You're obviously invited. Don't be weird." Weird. That was the default label anytime I asked a question they didn't want to answer. I almost let it go. Almost shoved the card in a drawer and moved on. But something in me cracked again. So I called her. She answered like I was a spam caller. "Hello." "Hey," I said. "I just wanted to ask, point blank, am I really invited? Like you want me there?" She didn't hesitate. "Of course. You're my brother." "Cool. Just making sure. Because last time I showed up to a family dinner, there wasn't a seat for me. Literally." Silence. Then, in that carefully curated Camille tone, "Are you still on about Thanksgiving? Lucas, come on. That was months ago. Let it go. Let it go." The phrase that gaslights every valid emotion into a character flaw. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just said, "I'll think about it." And I hung up. But I already knew the answer. I wasn't going to the wedding as an extra. If I showed up at all, it would be as something else entirely. Not forgotten. Not excluded. Not neutral. I'd spent 30 years biting my tongue to keep the peace. Now, I had something to say, and this time, they were going to hear it. That night, I pulled out my old guitar. It had been gathering dust in the corner of my apartment, like some relic from a different version of me. The one that used to play open mics in college. The one who wrote songs instead of status updates. who felt things without filtering them through other people's comfort. My fingers stumbled at first. The strings were out of tune. My voice cracked. But I kept playing. And something shifted. I started writing. Not love songs. Not breakup ballads. Just truth. Honest, aching truth. About being left out. About empty chairs. About napkins that said, family is everything, while no one noticed I wasn't eating. Within a week, I'd written 3 full songs. They weren't polished, but they were raw and real and finally mine. I made a SoundCloud account. Uploaded them. Didn't share the link. Didn't promote it. Just needed them to live somewhere other than my brain. Then something weird happened. People started listening. Strangers. A girl named B commented, "This feels like my Thanksgiving too." I didn't have a seed either. A guy named Jordan messaged. I thought I was over it until this song made me cry in a parking lot. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't the only one. I was never the only one. I'd just been too quiet to realize it. A small indie podcast called The Hollow Table found my page and DM'd me. "Would you be open to talking about your story? Your song Left Behind hit us hard." I said yes. We recorded the episode a week before Camille's wedding. I changed names. Didn't name drop. But I didn't sugarcoat anything either. I talked about the forgotten seat, the napkin, the voicemail, and I said the line I hadn't even admitted to myself until then. I stopped asking for space, and I started taking it. The host, Rhea, was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Lucas, I think a lot of people are going to see themselves in this." That's when I knew exactly what I'd do for the wedding. I wasn't going to make a scene. I was going to make a point. The formal wedding invite landed in my mailbox the same day the podcast episode dropped. It was Peak Camille, embossed gold lettering, hand-dyed ribbon, custom wax seal. Inside was a printed schedule that included everything from golden hour couple portraits to champagne confetti send-off. And, because of course, there was a QR code linking to their online gift registry. Out of curiosity, I clicked. Glassware. Luxury towels. A $500 Dutch oven. But the last item? Help us build our dream life. A cash fund for their future home, complete with a paragraph that read, "We're not asking for presents, just your presence, but also money." I closed the tab. It was too perfect. Too on brand. Take. Wrapped in Instagram captions about gratitude. That night, I texted Nate. "You still have that gray suit?" He replied instantly. "Yeah. Why? You proposing to someone?" "Just need a +1 for a performance." He sent a gif of a guy dramatically grabbing his coat. I'm in. Nate wasn't just a friend. He was the one person who'd been quietly rooting for me even when I wasn't rooting for myself. Music teacher, bass player, 6 feet 3 inches, sleeve tattoos, and eyes that made people forget what they were arguing about. Showing up with Nate wasn't revenge. It was realignment. Let them feel the shift. Let them see I didn't come alone. The podcast episode had started making the rounds. Not viral, but it hit the right corners of the internet. I got emails from people saying things like, "I thought I was broken. Turns out I just wasn't loud enough to be heard." And slowly, I began to realize this wasn't just a story. It was a mirror. And Camille's wedding? It was going to be the moment I stopped shrinking in other people's reflections. Not by flipping the table, but by setting my own. We arrived 15 minutes early. The venue was absurd. Vine-wrapped arches, string quartet, a floral budget that could have paid off my student loans. Nate looked like he'd stepped out of a GQ spread. I wore the navy suit I'd been saving for some mythical, important occasion. I guess this was it. As we walked in, the hostess handed us champagne flutes and a program that read, "Welcome to Camille and Trevor's love story." I couldn't help but laugh. We hadn't even sat down yet, and I already felt like an extra in a romantic drama I never auditioned for. My mom spotted us across the courtyard. She blinked. Hard. Like we were an optical illusion. She elbowed my dad, who glanced over, gave a tight nod, and went back to pretending his tie wasn't choking him. Camille found us during cocktail hour. Her dress was exactly what I expected. Lace, dramatic, clearly sponsored by Delusion. She smiled at Nate first. "And who are you?" "This is Nate," I said. "My date." "Musician," he added, offering a handshake with his usual calm charm. "Oh," she said. You could hear the gears grinding as she tried to reprocess the seating chart in her head. Then to me, "Wasn't sure you'd come." I smiled. "Wouldn't miss it." She blinked. "Well, glad you're here." The words were fine. The tone said I'm only 45% glad. Ceremony. Vows. Photos. The usual. I clapped, smiled, ate 2 polite bites of lemon chicken, and passed on the speeches. Until the DJ made the announcement. If anyone would like to share a few words for the couple, the mic is open. Of course, this was Camille's thing. She loved orchestrated sentiment. Loved giving people a script to perform affection from. People lined up. Tyler gave a long-winded toast comparing marriage to fantasy football. My aunt made a weird joke about fertility. My dad gave a speech that ended with, "To my daughter," who always lit up the room. Cue mascara tears from Mom. I sat in silence. I didn't need the mic. Because tomorrow, the real speech would drop. Rhea had moved up the release of the podcast's 2nd episode. It was going live at 8 a.m. sharp. And in that episode, I'd be performing a brand new song. One I hadn't shown anyone. A song called Napkin. It began with the line, "You said family was a blessing. Then you left me in the kitchen." I was already awake when the episode went live. Sitting at my tiny kitchen table, same spot where I'd once stared at a Thanksgiving-themed napkin like it might offer closure. But today was different. Today, I wasn't looking for answers. I was delivering one. Rhea's voice opened the episode. Today's story is about the invisible child. The one who always shows up. Until he doesn't. Then she introduced me. I took a sip of coffee, opened Spotify, and pressed play. My voice came through the speakers, steady and clear. I talked about the kitchen, the missing chair, the way silence can scream when you're surrounded by laughter that doesn't include you. And then, the song. Napkin wasn't flashy. Just vocals, guitar, a slow heartbeat of rhythm underneath. But it cut deep. I sang about smiling through erasure. About watching people pass plates while you stand in the doorway, waiting to be noticed. About realizing the peace you're praised for keeping is just a muzzle they gave you at birth. By noon, the messages started. Instagram DMs, email pings, comments on my SoundCloud. This was my childhood. I didn't even know I was grieving until now. Your story is mine. Then the texts. First, cousin Olivia. Lucas, was that about our family? Then, Tyler. Bro, people are messaging me, asking if we really left you out. I typed back. I didn't say names. I just told the truth. Camille didn't text, but I heard from someone at the wedding that a guest recognized the song, pulled up the podcast, and asked her, "Wait, isn't this your brother?" Apparently, she smiled too fast. Changed the subject. Cried later. My phone rang at 4 p.m. Oh, Mom. I let it buzz once, twice, then answered. Her voice was tight. "Why would you do this to us?" I didn't yell. I didn't explain. I didn't do anything to you, I said. I just stopped protecting a version of the story that erased me. She started to cry. Real tears. "We gave you everything, Lucas." "No," I replied. "You gave them love. You gave me tasks." Dad got on the line. His voice, quieter. "I didn't know you felt that way." "I know," I said gently. "That's the problem." We hung up without a resolution. No apologies. No shouting. Just a slow, cold wind through a closed door. But I didn't feel empty. I felt done. For once, I wasn't asking for a seat. I was building my own damn table. The podcast episode gained traction. Not viral, but real. Music blogs picked up Napkin. A local indie station reached out to interview me. People shared the song at family therapy workshops. One college professor emailed to ask if she could use it in a course on emotional labor in families. My streams passed 100K by September. I didn't feel famous. I felt free. And the napkin? I framed it. Hung it in my home studio. Not as a wound. As a witness. Because in the end, I didn't need a reunion. I needed a reckoning. And I got one. One stream at a time. One story at a time. One truth that finally had room to breathe. This is Lucas. The forgotten one. The one who stood. And walked away. And built something no one could take. Ever again.